All right, welcome and thanks for joining our webinar today, where we're exploring innovating reporting channels that leverage conversational AI. And this is our final webinar in this series. If you've missed any of our webinar conversations before that we've already broadcast, you can watch them on demand at arria.com/webinars. We're going to flash that URL up on the page a little bit later, and I'll paste it into the chat, so you can go ahead and click on that. My name is Brian Zwalin. I'm the SVP of Customer Success and Partner Relations at Arria NLG, and I'll be your host for this event. We'll kick off with a little context around who we are as individual professionals and organizations, and we'll discuss our solution to empower your organization with actionable insights to facilitate faster decision-making. And we'll have a conversation with our super panel of experts around conversational AI, and then some live demonstrations. Excuse me again. And then finally, we're going to close out with some time for Q&A. We want to get your questions in those panels, okay? So now I'm going to introduce our group. And I'm really excited about this group. As you scan the slides here, you'll see from their backgrounds, there's a common thread about AI and NLG and intelligent automation. So starting from the left of the slide, our Chief Product Officer and also a co-founder here at Arria, and Dr. Ross Turner. Welcome to the program.
Oh, thanks, Brian. I'm here. Thank you very much. It's great to be here.
Great. And also, you're not in Germany today. I think you're in Sicily, right?
I am. I'm joining all the way from Sicily, sunny Sicily.
Super. Great. Just moving down to the middle of the column here. He manages this group that we work with over at Deloitte out of Germany. He's got a great team of experts there. Welcome to the program, Stefan.
Yeah, nice to be here again in the third and final round of the ASOF program. Cool.
Yeah. Final. I'm kind of sad because I've been having fun doing this with you. And then I love this guy, Philip, on the call as well. Not only is he able to work with the customers and advise them and consult with them as the best practices in getting their data, but he loves to get his hands dirty in the technology. Philip, welcome to the program.
Glad to be here. Hi.
All right, so just a little bit about our organizations. Arria is the recognized global leader in natural language generation, or NLG for short. It's an artificial intelligence technology in that it replicates the human process of expertly analyzing and then communicating the knowledge that's learned about your data. Arria has the highest amount of NLG expertise that's led by our chief scientists, Dr. Ehud Reiter and Dr. Yaji Sripada, who are two of the leading figures internationally in the NLG space. And Deloitte has implemented our solution to many of our enterprise customers globally. They have a world-class expertise and eminence in analytics reporting. And it's this partnership that enables us collectively to provide you the best-in-class reporting solutions. So NLG does this robotic task of writing reports so you can free up your experts on more valuable tasks. It gives you the ability to write reports more frequently, perhaps, write more reports so that you can actually scale throughout the organization. And then you can have access to the data as you connect Arria NLG directly to your data, so you have that speed to information. And what's driving it is our NLP Studio. This is the heart and soul of our solution. So this uses powerful computational linguistics and advanced analytics. Well, all that means is it's basically your virtual analyst in a box. And it connects very easily to your data source, no matter where that's located, through a RESTful API. The data will pass securely through the RESTful API to the Studio platform. That's where the analysis is done. The data is then flushed, and then the analysis passes back down to the API through any presentation layer of choice. Now, we've made it easier to have access to this information, so we've developed several integrations. Our vision is to have NLG everywhere. So we can meet you wherever you are today in your digital transformation journey. So for instance, if you're using Excel, we have an integration with Excel. You can be using Arria for Excel today. You can download these extensions today to get started. As well as we have several integrations into the popular BI dashboards. We're going to see one in Power BI today, one in Tableau, but we also do MicroStrategy, Qlik, and TIBCO. And then we have a number of other types of applications for you to have access to the information. Now, I've got a lot of things to cover today, so I'm not going to go into all of this integration information, but if you go to our website, arria.com/everywhere, you'll be able to learn more about these pieces of information. So what I think I'd like to do next, Ross, in the interest of time, I'm going to pass this back to you, maybe to talk about a high-level recap of what we covered in the series so far.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Brian. So hopefully some of you who are in attendance have seen our previous webinars, but just to recap. So in webinar 1, we really went through background and business benefits in the form of a fireside chat, and in particular, how data literacy can enable self-service reporting and the role that narrative plays, and specifically NLG is a technology enabler in that. So just to go through it very quickly through the slide, for data literacy, we talked around benefits and the benefits of empowering your workforce to become more data literate. Specifically, if people are data literate, they learn how to ask the right questions of the data. They're empowered to better understand and interpret the results of their analysis. They're better enabled to test their hypothesis they have around the data, and ultimately communicate a clear and coherent story to stakeholders. So that's the real benefit of having a data literate organization. But getting there also presents some challenges, and we talked about that in webinar 1. So specifically, the amount of data that we have now available in organizations is ever increasing, and the skill set required to analyze that data still remains a very specialist skill. Another challenge, people interpret complex data in different ways, dependent on their varying skills and experience. Yet another challenge, information and decision making is becoming more and more decentralized. And there's an increased need to increase the data literacy throughout the organization in order for businesses to remain competitive. So that's some of the benefits and challenges, but then we talked about, okay, how can you then enable data literacy within an organization? So there's a few key points here. So one is creating transparency around where data comes from and how it was collected. So if your end users understand that, they're better able to understand the limitations and potential biases in the data. And then another enabler there is breaking down data silos to create a single source of truth, so everybody in the organization has access to the same information. Yet another enabler, providing training and tools, so people within the organization can better manage and process the data. And then coming more towards self-service reporting now, there's another enabler is using a combination of different communication channels and presentation mediums, right? So being very user-centric around this. So people digest and consume information in different ways. And then we move now across over to the right-hand side, specifically around self-service reporting. Having a self-service mentality through self-service reporting is another key enabler for data literacy. And what we talked about in webinar 1 is what is the importance of narrative to self-service reporting and specifically data literacy. So narrative is really is the communication in context piece of data literacy. So that's as a natural way for people to communicate, it provides instant understanding to data for end users. And natural language generation is really a technology enabler that allows the integration of narrative into self-service reporting. And then finally, in webinar 1, we finished off with outlining some broad applications for natural language generation, which we'll talk a bit more about in a minute. So I won't recap that. So like I said, webinar 1 was very much around background and business benefits. Webinar 2, we really deep dove into the technology, and we focused a lot more on the technical aspects of how to transition to self-service analytics by adding dashboard narratives, specifically by demonstrating out-of-the-box natural language generation functionality in the Arria for Tableau add-in. And then secondly, we also showed a complex earnings report in Power BI. And Philip later on in the webinar will do some recap on that demonstration. So at this point, I think I'll hand over to Stefan, who will then introduce webinar 3.
Yes, happy to do so, and then maybe also a quick quick recap. You have maybe seen this slide already once you attended the first webinars. So let's have a quick look into where NLG applications areas are. Where do we have, in our experience, where does NLG really raise most of the benefits for our clients, and where we go for? And one thing which Ross, you perfectly mentioned already, is the self-service reporting piece, because we really want to relieve here people from trying to do interpretation of results by themselves, but raising the self-service mentality, make data available and information. Basically, it's not about data, it's about the information inside this data available to all your people who need this information to take decisions. And as not everybody is an expert in drilling down into data, so if you present them in a way like with energy to really bring them into context, really guide people into what's in the data, what's hidden there, and we will have a quick glimpse again today for those who have not been able to attend the last webinar. So that's really the power of bringing the context to people and create actionable insights. Another area which we see is really a frequently used one is the recurring business reporting. Imagine your cost center reporting, for example, which comes out on a monthly basis. This cost center reporting, in many companies, people don't have time again to do some commenting on cost center reporting for the cost center representatives. And there's just a report sent out to them. Hey, look at your cost center numbers and see what's necessary, what actions to take. And now imagine if you send out this email with the attached cost center report, and in the body of the email, there's a part which everybody is reading. It's not, okay, here's your latest cost center report, but here's your latest cost center report. And for your specific cost center, there are the following topics you need to take care of, because there is really room to action. You need to take action because you are running out of your planned budgets, for example. And that can be done automatically utilizing energy, because it's much too expensive to do it with controllers commenting each and every cost center. Then another area which we quite often see is the legal and statutory reporting. That's a bit of a different application area, because there the text is not as flexible in many cases as we do in the others. So there's not the necessity always that it reads really natural, but is really strict, following the same rules all the time. And their energy is a perfect way to prepare this kind of reporting in a consistent way. You don't need to look at if there are some errors in it. If you create it once in a perfect sense, you just put in, you connect it to your numbers, and it creates a report automatically in a really high level quality, and it's auditable because you can follow up why it created the text in the way it was created. And finally, we see NLG more and more popping up in more innovative reporting channels. And just a bit spoilering, but imagine there's somebody who is not able to read emails, to look at spreadsheets, to look at some dashboards, because the person is driving in a car, for example. So what is the only way to convey information here? It's done via an audio file, for example. We can all listen to podcasts while we are on a car. So why not convey reporting information in this channel, also to make people aware of topics and get them informed if they arrive at their clients, for example. And a bit later today, so now we will deep dive into some of the areas again, which we have seen in terms of application areas. But in the end, we bring it today all together. So we have created how all these different items play together to create a different reporting experience for everybody in a company. Having said that, handing over back to Ross, because what we have seen already is how the dashboard will talk to you, how the dashboard will guide you. But now let's see what are the options that also I can talk to the dashboard to get more and more information. Ross.
Thank you very much, Stefan. So what we'd like to do a brief demonstration of right now is our feature called Arria Answers. So Arria Answers is a conversational natural language query processing platform, which allows users to interact in real time with the data using a natural question answer paradigm. So Arria Answers is accessible through a chat interface directly integrated into your BI dashboard. So in this case, we're using Tableau and the Arria for Tableau add-in. And essentially what we're about to show you, what we've done here is we've brought together 3 technology streams. So the first being dialogue systems, or as some people know it, conversational agents, to understand input and manage dialogue. We're bringing together insight analytics to surface the content for the responses. And of course, natural language generation, which has been the subject throughout this webinar series, for generating responses in a natural way. So if you joined the second webinar, for the people in attendance, you may already be familiar with this dashboard, but what you're looking at is a sales dashboard with actual and target sales. And Arria Answers actually has access to the complete underlying data model on the dashboard. So let's start off by asking a few questions. So how are my actual sales? And we're just going to type this into the box here. A little bit of time to respond. There we go. So what you'll notice when we were typing the question in there, there was an autocomplete feature, and that obviously gives some feedback to the end user, but also it helps to remind the end user of the actual data model, right? Because there's obviously a number of measures and dimensions, and they're all auto-completed by using a tab there. So that's quite a simple question. So the next one I'm going to ask is actually going to filter on the query. So we're going to filter the data down using a number of different dimensions. So I'm going to ask, how are actual sales of Retine for brand store in France? So in this case, we're going to be filtering by 3 dimensions. We're going to be filtering by the market, the product, and the country. Great, and you can see the response there. So we can also handle time expressions. So I'm going to ask, how are actual sales in March 2020? And obviously there's quite a bit of complex natural language processing going on, because we're going to have to interpret these expressions. Great, so now you see the response there, but that's just a single point in time. So we can actually deal with time intervals as well as just single points. So let's ask, how are actual sales in the last 3 months? And then just to kind of exemplify a little bit more how we help the user ask questions, we're going to ask the same question, but we're going to type out the number in the question this time, rather than using the number 3. We're going to spell it out. So just to say, you get the same answer, of course, but just to exemplify some of the advanced natural language processing functions available. So we can also do grouping functions. So again, tell me about actual sales by product. So rather than filtering the data, we're grouping the data. Great. And then just to finish off this interaction, we want to show how the Arria Answers can actually formulate responses that are not only descriptive, but also explanatory. So I'm going to ask, okay, what drove actual sales versus target sales for Retine in France? There we go. So we get a complex response, which actually consists of drivers and offsets. So not only just describing what happened, but also saying why it happened. So that's a very brief demonstration of some of our conversational AI functionality. And we should make the point that within the dashboard, we can create any Arria pane. It can not only be output text, but it can be turned into an Arria answers pane. So this question answering paradigm is available. Also, if you're not quite sure where to start, we also provide a suggestion function, which actually suggests questions to ask from your data, right? And quite a nice feature of this is it always suggests questions that there are obviously answers to. So it really provides that guided experience to the end user. So I think at this point, Brian, we were going to cut to a poll and just ask the audience what's their experience with conversational AI is.
That's right. I'll go ahead and push this poll up there for you. We're really asking to find out a little bit about your thoughts around conversational AI. If you're using conversational AI today, if not, are you planning to in the future? Would you like to learn a little bit more about conversational AI? This is going to give us a little bit of insight as to how we're guiding this conversation here. So interesting, yeah. I think we're starting to see the poll results coming in. We're at about 50% people are responding, no, they don't have conversational AI, planning to in the future. And what I'll do next is, Philip, while we're looking at the poll results here, I'm going to go ahead and make you the presenter so we can do a little recap on the dashboard that you've set up.
I hope everybody can see my screen all right. So
Yes.
what we showed the last time in the webinar was one of our NLG or Arria powered dashboards. So we obviously try to adhere to reporting standards and modern day reporting guidelines. As you can see here also on the right side. So we want to obviously create a comprehensible storyline for the user, tell the user the story about their data. We want to focus about information instead of just numbers or instead of just data points. So dig a little bit deeper to find out what's going on beneath the surface. It should obviously also be instantly understandable for non-data experts because as I'm sure people are very different, and there might be some people who prefer like table-driven data analysis, but then also there is a lot of people that would really like to have this instantly understandable experience. And it can be adjusted to company specific. So whatever your reporting scenario is and your reporting guidelines are, we make sure or can make sure that the report that comes out, the dashboard and also the natural language generation component adheres to these company specifics. And I'll quickly jump over to our dashboard. So the ones of you that were in the last webinar probably already know this, but just for the ones of you who are new here, it's a pretty standard P&L dashboard that guides us through a profit and loss of a company that steers by business and geographies. And what we can see here on the left side is the natural language generation component. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit and focus a little bit on the narrative. And as we can see here, it describes the revenue, you get your drivers, also the comparison between prior year and plan. And it focuses on three main KPIs, so net revenue, gross margin, and global earnings. But the really cool thing here is it also guides the user, as I said, is one of the key components. So what do we have here? We have a gross margin alert. So something that you could normally not see from this dashboard in the way it is set up. The gross margin in France is something we should take a look at. So these filters go for earnings instead of gross margin, and overall the gross margin looks fine because it's on an aggregated level, but we're going to dig a little bit deeper to find out what's going on. And I'm going to set the filter for France. And as the dashboard updates, you can see that also the natural language generation engine creates the report in near real time. Takes a little bit, obviously. And we can see, once again, the whole narrative has been adapted to the filters set by the user. So it's now showing cases for France, and it is showing us in the gross margin that we should take a special look at business medical, because that actually posted an overall negative margin, which should normally not happen, or hopefully. And once again, we could not see that here from the dashboard. Overall, over all businesses, we do have an aggregated positive margin, but we want to find out what's going on with business medical. So we'll set an additional filter here. And there we can see the gross margin is indeed negative already. and we go always one level below. So as you have seen before, when we're on the highest aggregated level, we tell which business or which geography the deviation could potentially come from or comes from. And here we go one level below. So net revenue, everything still fine, still in order. But then if we go to the gross margin, we can overall see the description. So it is indeed negative, but then also the drivers of variance. So product group wise, product group implants is doing fine, staying ahead of the plan. However, tools and supplies are actually significantly behind the plan, but quite a lot. And that's something how we would like to show that the user can actually be guided, information can be brought, or insights can be brought to the user straight before, even from the first level of aggregation, and they see what's really down below and what insights are necessary for them. Now I'll go back to my presentation and hand over to Stefan.
Yes, thanks, Philip. And I think that was hopefully for everybody a great recap, just to really come to the focus areas of how we can guide the user already with the chat, with the dashboard. So we have seen on the one hand side how you can start communicating with the dashboard, with the conversation AI layer to ask the dashboard for information. On the other hand, also we have now seen how the dashboard is already guiding the user. So see it as a combination, how powerful it is, just that the user doesn't need to search for information, but the dashboard is already telling where to focus on, where put the effort in to really make the difference. What we now did, and I already talked a bit briefly about it, the innovative channels. So if we will see in the next video, how could the reporting of the future look like? So how can we combine all these cool technologies around in terms of the intelligent automation bit to really make the difference for users, create additional value and benefit for your company, because everybody gets the right information at the right point in time to really kick off measures to really change the situation. And having said that, let's maybe have the video talk for itself. We do a quick recap once the video is over, so we have about 2.5 minutes of a video, and see how we see that the reporting of the future will look like. How will CFOs and all other people in the company get into a different user experience in terms of reporting?
CFOs are often challenged with an information overload and a shortage of time. Meet Michaela, the CFO of Oipanio Incorporated. Together with Deloitte, she has set up a network of virtual assistants who she can trust to inform her immediately when something happens. Oipanio's real-time finance dashboard communicates with various intelligent automation tools via API connections. When one of the business alerts is triggered, the chatbot is activated and provides the CFO with a number of options. When the chatbot has received input from Michaela, the NLG engine creates a narrative based on the business alert. This NLG script is sent via API to a text-to-speech engine that creates the final podcast. This triggers the chatbot to inform Michaela that the podcast is ready.
Your tailored podcast is ready.
Good morning, Mrs. Knight. This is Oipanio's P&L report for July 2020. Given the current global situation, our performance can be categorized as stable. However, one of the business alerts has been triggered early this morning. The gross margin has been affected. Business Medical in France reported -872.7 euro. This has been driven mainly by the category supplies, with a deviation to plan of -261.8%. This happened for the following reasons. Due to the high demands of masks and ventilators during the COVID pandemic, the French government's purchase orders emptied all our stocks of masks and ventilators, however only at fair value. For this reason, we could not generate revenue as planned, but simultaneously had to bear the costs.
During the virtual meeting, Michaela informs the French finance team about the business alert and underlying drivers. She instructs them to follow up and report back to her by the end of the business day. Do you want to learn how your business could benefit from virtual assistants? Your local Deloitte contact person can tell you everything about what the value of real-time dashboarding, chatbots, and RPA can be for you. Your business will be monitored 24/7, which gives you peace of mind and enables your team to work on the tasks which really add value.
So hope it was exciting for all of you as well. Imagine you're in the position, and maybe it's not the right thing for everybody that's still waking up and directly receiving a business alert. So you can also have settings that this will not start before 8 o'clock in the morning or whenever it's suitable for you. But I think that's how you can proactively utilize technologies which are there, creating business alerts, triggering events out of these alerts via intelligent automation tools. The chatbot can come in, the chatbot offers you options how you want to receive it, depending on your personal situation in this moment. Do you want to read it somewhere because you can't listen to a podcast, or on the other hand, do you want to create a podcast which you can just listen to while driving into your office? And when you come into your office, you have already basic information in hand that what's going on, and you don't need to spend too much time in terms of finding out what kind of issue is there, because you know it already, but you can immediately start bringing in the experts who can take measures to do the difference. And what we have seen, so even it might look for many people as it is a bit of fiction, but basically all the technologies which are used in this are just there. So it's just how you intelligently combine different technologies to really create the difference for everybody here and create different experience in terms of business value for reporting. And so reporting becomes even more a value driver for your company. So handing over back to Philip, maybe because we have now seen the different topics today, asking the dashboard, your dashboard is talking to you, see how it can be combined to create a different user experience. But as this is also, we have had the 3 sessions with a bit of different content. Philip, maybe from your perspective, what are the top 5 things which we should take away from this webinar?
So what we have learned, but also what we would like you to take away from these series of 3 webinars, and what we have learned over our journey together with natural language generation, visual analytics, and conversational AI, is that NLG really is a crucial enabler to become data literate. So why is that important? Data literacy, it drives data-driven decisions, with narrative being the most effective way to contextualize data. So humans, we communicate in language, in text, and that is the most natural to us to receive information and convey information. Self-service reporting really plays a crucial role in enabling people to engage with the data at hand in an easy and also efficient, but also democratic manner. So it's really the potential to dive into the data fast and easily. That's the future, and that's something that should be on your mind. User centricity is obviously also a very big point of that. So user-centric channels, like, for example, the self-service reporting layer, they allow for optimal understanding of data. And data-driven decisions, they break up knowledge silos, they democratize data, and they enable an insight-driven discussion culture within your company. So every decision that's being taken based on data and not just gut feeling alone is a more informed and therefore, in our opinion, a more useful one. And the last point, last but not least, the technology, it's already, like Stefan said, it's here today and ready to use. So all the things that we saw in the video, they have all been done already at customers. And you can start small in a POC or pilot setting, and then once you've grasped the value for yourself and for your company, scale it really fast. That's a very, very important point as well.
Yeah, thanks, Philip, for that recap. And these are really all important topics, hopefully why everybody's joined today. In fact, I'm going to throw up another poll here to ask, on these topics, which one of these topics are you most keen to learn more about? So, you know, we touched on today about the data literacy. If you've been following the series, you know about all the information behind that. And so I'm just describing as we get some results coming in, we can see conversational AI is a good key interest here, and very fascinating as well, and always progressing in its technology and its capabilities. And there are several technologies in there, as Ross had touched on a little bit earlier. And just in the interest of time, I'm going to go ahead and move it forward because we do want to get to your questions as well. So let's go ahead and close this poll here.
All right. Yeah, and just in case, if you ask how to get started quick and efficiently, we have ironed out over the past couple of experiences a very fast and efficient approach to really quickly come to the first NLG benefits within a POC setting. So we would usually cluster it into 4 phases. So first, scope definition. We need to understand the use case and identify reporting goals. Then we analyze the use case, define out KPIs and the necessary calculation logic. Business concept, obviously everything stronger with a good concept and a well thought out concept in the forefront. So we like to create a narrative before we go actually into creating the reporting narrative. So the key cornerstone, which will be the NLG project, will then be designed and built. And that can be done in a very fast time, depending, of course, on project complexity.
This is a great slide, Philip, and thanks for outlining this. And I just encourage everybody in the audience to think about what's been captured here. It's their knowledge from experience on how to get somebody up and running very quickly, because a lot of people are a little shy about putting their foot in the water of digital transformation. Some people don't even dig deeper as to what that means. But always know that this Deloitte group is ready and skilled and available to help you walk through that process and help you configure something that's you're going to find value for very quickly. So whether that's like the dashboard to get started with, or even that end-to-end solution with alerts and triggering and notifications to your devices.
And maybe adding up to that, Brian. So and not only that there is this approach available. So what we experienced in the past. So there is also a great that you don't need to buy software first or whatsoever. So for especially this purpose of getting your hands dirty first to get your own experience in the POC setting. We have a good collaboration with Arria in having a sandbox environment ready and available to get started quickly. And once you have seen the value, then you can decide to go into licensing options and so on. So that's a really easy starter there.